Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show which brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted to have a conversation with Tamara Loehr. Hey, Tamara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, to introduce Tamara, she is a serial entrepreneur and an award-winning businesswoman who launched multiple ethical startups into global businesses. She started her first business when she was 19 years old, so we'll cover that as well, why so early. And through the years has become an expert in online sales and community channel marketing. She's a co-founder of Beusail Academy, and she also is the author of a well-received book called Balance is BS. So those are the main topics for today. Tamara, again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and experience with us. So your main business at the moment, your main focus is the Beusail Academy. Is that right? Now, I have to ask you, what does Beusail stand for?
So Beusail is actually an ancient Gaelic word, and it stands for ethical, moral, and of good intent. And it's interesting because that's all about honoring the Earth Mother back in the day. So what's really resonated with me was they looked at things through a very simple filter. You're either showing up in a state of Beusail or you're showing up in a state of Besuk, which ironically one says be you and sail and the other one says be you and suck. And the difference is that Besuk is all about striving for constant perfection, excess, beyond what you actually need, putting me first, over everybody else. So to me, when I heard that meaning, I thought, wow, when I look at business, it's very a dog-eat-dog world, and, it's all hustle and at any cost make this profit, even at the sake of the environment. And I thought, gosh, that's really, if I had to explain it, we're trying to, move from a life of Besuk back into a life of Beusail. So obviously after 25 years in business, I'm at a point where, I really believe business could be used as a force for good. So, Beusail seemed like a beautiful name to encapsulate that. And to be honest, it's really sad that nobody even knows what it means anymore. So perhaps I'm secretly trying to revive it.
Well, I think you're doing a great job to revive that. And also what I'm hearing is it's actually very much more than a name. It's actually the whole vision of your organization, of you as a person, is captured in that name.
Yes, this is a movement and this is a collective. So, for me, everyone always says, oh, you're the co-founder of Beusail. I kind of say I'm a custodian of Beusail. And, what does it look like to live a life of Beusail, to be a business in Beusail? So, for me, I really believe that that attracts like-minded people. And my mentor, when I said to him, well, I'm quite spiritual, I said, don't you think this is going to freak people out? And he said, you know what, freak them in or freak them out. So
makes sense. I mean, you put people on the spot. You're in or you're out. There's no gray area. Is that correct? You have to convince people, or?
No, I don't think so. I think people are really lost. I think there is a real sense of, real lack of trust, both in governments, in their business leaders, because, at the end of the day, business, the top 3,000 companies in the world do $2 trillion worth of damage to the environment every year. And even the church, there's a lot of people who are lost and looking for a place that they can go and go on an inward journey. So really that's where it needs to start, is with yourself, and then, using your purchasing power for good. I mean, we've forgotten one really important thing as women. We're probably the most worn out we've ever been as women, having to juggle everything, homeschooling, our businesses are dying at twice the rate of males because we don't have the run rate. we're obviously wanting to have careers and provide for our family, but all of this is really making us worn out. So, we're at this time where we've got to go, hang on, let's just stop and remind ourselves that we make over 80% of the purchasing decisions. Almost half of us are now breadwinners.
Mhm.
So how do we use this power for good? How do we come together as women and enlightened men? It's not exclusively about women, but I'm focusing on women because I feel that, we need to put our mask on first. And that saying, when you're on the plane, please put your mask on before you help others. I'm not seeing a lot of that. So, I'm here to really bring together women and say, hey, let's put our masks on. Let's help each other. Let's rise up together. What does it look like if we blend our lives as opposed to balancing? What does it look like if we use our purchasing power for good? What does it look like if we support each other? So, that's really what it's about, which, is changing a lot of lives, actually.
Yeah. I love that. And what you're describing is what you're doing today. And I'd like to ask you to take us how you actually got there, because you started your first business when you were 19 years. So how did that happen?
Well, it's interesting. You get more clarity as you get older, right? 45 now. So, and if I was to really review it, if you were to look at all the events when you go back, it's really based on my values. So for me, starting a business, I'll give you an example. At 19, I worked really hard at university, got very high grades, went straight into an agency based on my grades, and was miserable because the whole marketing agency mentality was, the pool table and the drinks and the, smoothing up clients and all that sort of stuff. And I found it very inauthentic to have to sell something that I didn't believe in. So, I remember one of our accounts was McDonald's. Okay. So that, I don't eat McDonald's. I am all about healthy lifestyles. And so, for me, that just didn't resonate. So, when I was put on these accounts and I was told that you will make this look good and make people eat more of this, I just didn't align with my values. So at the time, I didn't understand what it was. I would call it gut instinct. And I think as women, that's kind of beaten out of us in business. Yeah. Like it's seen as a weakness, but what I've come to realize is that's actually our strength, our ability to have this amazing gut instinct, to lead with our head and our heart, whereas we're told kind of cut it off, just lead with your head, like don't get personal and separate business and personal life. And all these things I've realized is absolute BS. They're the things that make us so good in business as leaders. So, over the years, whenever there has been a compromise or something that didn't align to my values, I've taken the action. So one of my other values is doing the opposite, which is kind of what we're doing with, Beusail. Another, because it hasn't always been perfect sailing, but another one was I built a very large business and I had a board, I had investors, all I seemed to do was HR and management meetings, and I was miserable. And I was like, but this is what you wanted. Like you wanted a large business. You wanted to be in the 0.01% of women. And I strived so hard to get to 8 figures. And then I went, why aren't I enjoying this? And then when I looked at my values, one of them is creativity. And when you get us to a business to a certain size, I'm not working on that, creating the startup and, doing all that fun stuff. So, really understanding what my values were, which, I encourage everyone to stop and actually do that. And then it made it really easy to audit decisions moving forward. So now I have enormous clarity on what I say yes and what I say no to. And I definitely say no more than I say yes. And it's as simple as using my values as a compass and going, well, I like to do the opposite. I like creative. I like freedom and impact. They're my 4, right? So if it, even just this podcast, if I had audited this podcast against my values and something didn't fit, it would have been a no. to attending and getting out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it makes life very simple to what to say yes to and what to say no to.
And a word which comes to mind when I hear you speak is congruency. It's walking the talk. So it's not just sort of thinking about it, observing something, but actually taking the consequence of what your heart and mind tells you.
Absolutely. And, valuing your time. So, yes, we're very good at serving others, but again, we have to serve ourselves and value our time, and knowing that that's really precious. And unless it aligns to my values, it's a no, thank you. You can say no politely. It's just, trust me, it takes a lot more time if you compromise one of those values and you're not consistent in your values, because you're going to have to come unstuck. I had to then go and sell that business, and get out of it because I wasn't happy in it. So, it ends up being a lot more time consuming and painful if you try and compromise it. And, I would ask anyone who's listening, if they're being honest with themselves, to look back at things that imploded and go, okay, what value was out? There was usually one that was compromised.
Okay. Now we're going to come to the book later in the show, but it seems like you're already describing a couple of the chapters of your book.
Correct.
All these lessons learned. Okay. Now, as mentioned in the introduction, you are a sought after expert on the topic of the community channel marketing. And it seems that that also ties into, you could say, why you set that up in the values you described. Could you explain a little bit what that is and what is bringing you and what is bringing your environment?
Well, community channel marketing was actually quite a journey to get to this point. So, I really felt that I wanted to use business as a force for good. And two of my things are business as a force for good, my missions in life. And the other one is to bridge the gap in female entrepreneurship. That's the two things that I believe I've been put on the planet this lifetime anyway to fix. So I'm hoping to get it right in this one. Or at least make a nice dent, because I have two daughters now. So it's important that I pave this way and leave the planet in a better place than, how we started it. So, so community channel marketing is really about a village, actually bringing women together in a village environment where we all help each other. So I am part of Entrepreneurs Organisation and Young Presidents Organisation, and they have these things called forums, and we've got to this point where everything's en masse. We go into our social media and we've got thousands of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers, and we really need to get back to connection. That's really important. And for me, being in a forum with like-minded people has really changed my life. And they're only small groups. So we bring women together and we channel them together to find like-minded people and really lean into each other and show up and say, I see you, as opposed to, that's not seeing someone, that's not acknowledging them and taking the time. So the channel is all about bringing women together and then, giving them an opportunity then to grow. Some of them want to become entrepreneurs. So how do we do that? And when we look at traditional channels, which has been my background, which is selling products direct to consumer online, I've rode that wave for a while, almost a couple of decades. And it's been great for small business because big guys weren't in there, right? Mm-hmm. But now the multinationals are playing and it's all supply and demand. So I was listening to some data the other day as part of the Digital Marketer Summit. And they were saying that in my industry, beauty, $80 for an acquisition. Now, that's becoming unobtainable for somebody who doesn't have a venture capital, a big bank of money. Another YPO of mine who is investor-backed breaks even after 8 months. So again, how many women can possibly start a business online with those sorts of parameters? So for me, I'm kind of sick of lining the pants of Zuckerberg and Google. So how do we instead come together as a community and then buy products off other female founders that give back? So when my mentor said to me, Tamara, if you need to achieve your 2 missions in life, it'll be one very simple thing. And, I tend to overcomplicate things. So I would come back with this massive plan, right? It was like a 10-page document and this is how I'm going to do it. And he'd go, too complicated. It's too complicated. It'll be one simple thing. And when I realized that one thing was that the multinationals don't have the power and the social media channels don't have the power. We have the power, the purchasing power. So the one thing we need to do is just switch from unethical brands, so Beusail brands, to brands that are ethical, which means female founded and giving back. And then that takes care of so much. So if I've got to buy a shampoo, for instance, and I decide to switch from one that's owned by a multinational brand to one that is a female founded brand that's just as good a quality, actually better, because it's made with love and, less on marketing and more on ingredients. If I was to switch, I'm going to help a female founder in the process. And then what we say at Beusail is for every purchase that you make, we then pay it forward to the United Nations to make a difference. So instead of giving it to $80, well, we don't put that much, but 30% is what we give to other women. 30% then goes to, we're supporting a brand, other women can sell our products and they can earn 30%. And then we give to the United Nations for every product that we sell. So it's buy one, support one, give one. And just that concept alone, when we cut out the middleman who's making that money and we come together as women and we buy from each other, that's community channel marketing. That's how we market to one another, but in a Beusail manner.
Got it.
Long answer, sorry. I had to give background.
It's a long answer. It's a lot of food for thought as well. And my personal background is also in community building. So I have a couple of thoughts and I'm curious about a couple of things here. And one of the things is, one of the downsides of a community is it also allows you to create echo chambers. You sometimes I feel you need to have an opposing view, to have a debate, to find a balance between what your thoughts are and what's else is happening in the world. And
Absolutely.
Getting everybody together who are like-minded, it doesn't completely take it away, but it makes it very difficult to access other thoughts. So it takes away a little bit of the inclusiveness of society. So how do you cope with that part of the downside of creating communities?
So the community is about people coming together with their own thoughts, their own businesses, their own ways of doing things. As long as you show up in a state of Beusail, that's pretty much the parameters. So it's no different to, Young Presidents Organization. We come together, we have different businesses, we have different religions, we have different backgrounds, because that's a global organization. We are governed by how we should act, which in YPO is, no solicitation, strict confidentiality rules, and then there's some guidelines around, how much your business needs to make in order to get into the organization. So in the same way, we're saying don't come into Beusail if, you're here to, carry on about what it is that you preach, I guess would be the right thing. There's no judgment. It's all about serving others, not yourself. And it's for the greater good. So, if we put that filter and just bring people together that are like-minded, then I'm interested to see what they do, to be honest. Because if they start supporting each other and start being there for each other and using their purchasing power for good, I'm here just merely to curate. I'm here to connect. That's my role in all of this. And then, as you said, if it's a closed-off community, then no one can infiltrate it. I totally understand that. But with an open door, anyone can walk through and go, hey, I'd like to share Reiki. I would like to share I would like to lead the meditation session, or, I have this view, or I have this business idea, or I have this product, whatever it is. If you lead in a state of Beusail, you're open to listening to that view. So then it's not closed off. And that's the issue that I find, with being in places, like in organizations like YPO, is that, nobody else can get in. Like, no, you couldn't come to one of my learning events and get the massive value that I might from a speaker or from being in a group of people. Whereas we're kind of the opposite. We're like, we're having a full moon intention, or we're doing a new moon intention, or we're going on this retreat. If you want to come along, you're quite welcome to lean in and join in. As long as you're not here to show up in a state of Beusail.
Okay, so the doors open, the arms are open. You welcome everybody.
Yeah.
How many people then from the people who walk in walk out again? So is there a percentage which will become disappointed? So, hey, this is not for me, or these. Can you shed a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, it's interesting because we did a comparison. As in full transparency, what got me going down this pathway was a business opportunity, which didn't align to my values. So going back to that. So I was approached by a cohort that were an MLM leader, so multi-level marketing, network marketing. And they said, look, we love what you stand for. We love your personal brand, if we're talking about that. So, obviously this is the theme. And they could see that as far as monetization. They wanted somebody to head up their MLM. And, they told me about how much money was in the industry, which is really interesting. And I thought, because I was told that, because I didn't know much about MLM at the time, I was told that they were all based around community and helping women make money, right? So, creating futures for them, and so that they could start their own businesses and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, fantastic. Let's have a look under the hood. And when I looked under the hood, 90% of women lost money because they were forced to buy product on the way through. And 97% of people didn't make money. So it was just the top of them that were making money. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds a little bit dishonest. It's a no from me. But what was interesting was the community element. Why were women still staying in these? And it was because of the sense of community. So they were obviously looking for that. The thing that the thing that didn't stick or sit well with me was the dishonesty around how they recruited them. So I didn't like that factor. But I did take note of the size of these organizations. They had a lot of women in them. Mm-hmm. But guess how many people leave in the first 30 days because they go in and they see that it's not what they were told? 80%. Now, I don't know about you. There's no other business in the world that would accept an 80% churn rate in the first 30 days, right? I mean, that's not a good business model.
Yeah.
So I went, well, what does it look like if we show up and we're honest and we bring these women together and provide them some guidelines and some, beautiful, safe place for them to come in and have that community that they're looking for, but we don't force them to do anything. And when we say we help people if they want to start a business, because not everybody wants to, if we honor that and we actually help them. So, what does that look like? And we have a 97% retention rate. It is off the charts. People actually usually only leave if they want to take a break or they've got someone who's sick in the family. It was astounding when we ran our beta with 100 women and some men. No one wanted to leave. In fact, when we said, okay, the beta's over, we're now going into, build mode. We need to build the infrastructure and the tech and all that sort of stuff, and the modules for training people to run these circles, these Beusail circles is what we call them. They were all like, no, you can't shut this down. Like, this is my favorite thing of the week. Like, this is my home. This is my family. And I was like, okay. So, it's very interesting when you actually show up with the right intentions. and you honor what you say you're going to do. And it's actually not that simple. Just do what you say you are going to do. Like, I don't understand why people try and, or maybe marketing, try and say one thing and then do another. You're just going to churn through people. And we've said very much, this is your community. I'm merely here to help guide and facilitate. But Beusail is for everyone. So it's been a really magical journey to see how people have interacted with it, and how it's become their new way, which is, it's lovely. It's really lovely.
Well, the way you describe it reminds me of an acronym once somebody shared with me called HAIL. HAIL is the best way to lead your life, and HAIL stands for honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love. And if you take those things on board, you actually get where you want to go. And so if I now assess what you've told me so far, would you share with us? So you have your principles, and just aligning your life with those principles will almost lead to the self-fulfilling prophecy of success. So don't jeopardize your principles with what's been offered around you.
Yep, because at the end of the day, most people want purpose in their life. And money isn't a key driver for a lot of women. They need it, but it's not like they wake up every day and go, if I was just really, really rich, everything would be fine. So women are looking for purpose, and I don't think that they're offered it in a lot of businesses because of this 9-to-5 conform, and the fact that it doesn't align to their values, and it doesn't give a shit about their family and what time their kids finish work or finish school so that they can finish work to pick them up. They say they care, but then they don't. So I think it's time for us to actually look at actions of business as opposed to, value propositions and mission statements on walls.
This is for me the perfect moment now to ask you, how many chapters in your book have we covered so far? So the book Balance is BS.
Yeah, we've touched on a few, which is values.
Yeah.
And knowing your value is really important with the time conversation. But not on business. So probably we haven't touched on the fact that, why aren't women taking the leap into entrepreneurship? And there's a lot of hurdles there. And in my industry, in the beauty and wellness sector, 9 out of 10 brands fail. It's a very hard industry, and it's to break into and to survive in. So, for me, it's all about how do we bring down those barriers? And I call it, mentoring. Like, what are the hurdles? We don't want to strive to be, to get to $1 million. That's feast and famine as far as I'm concerned, because 1 out of 10 is going to survive. And then out of that, 0.2% of those are going to get to $1 million. So how do we take the time? And this is the thing in this life that we lead, where everything is fast and now, and people have forgotten that the best things, including the relationships that you have in your life and raising children and all these, a garden, all of these things take time. You need to plant them, you need to sow into them, and then you need to, look after them. Yeah. So much like a business, how do we get women to 4 and 5 figures first? How do we get them to just get the water from here to here? And then we go, right, now you have options. And at the end of the day, that's all we really want. We want freedom and choices, because from that, then we can breathe and we can think clearly, and we can go, okay, now what's possible? Now that I have this group of women by my side who are backing me and championing me and supporting me by buying my products, now what's possible? And when you take it step by step by step, and strive first to 4 and 5 figures, figure that out, then master that, move to the next thing, you get to $1 million, and a lot more of them can get to $1 million really quickly. So for me, as a mentor now, to female startups, I say to them, I get that you've got a business idea, but let's just get you to 4 and 5 figures, selling something inside the industry that you're already passionate about. Let's create the community first. So instead of everyone who comes to me who has a product or a business that isn't doing so well, and they need to, because, you know, there's this whole middle bit where business is just really hard, like just getting over that first hurdle, which is what you call that hockey stick, right? You see the grind and then off it goes. When you're in this bit here, which is hell, really, when you're in that bit, they're always coming to me and they want more leads and they want more sales. That's always the thing that will fix everything. And I'm like, well, that's because you did it around the wrong way. If you had started with a community first and spoke to them about, you know, and built up a community based on what your business is doing and the problem that it's fixing, and then say, oh, by the way, now I have a product, you could instantly sell out. That makes more sense, right? Instead, they build the product that they want to create, and then they go to and try and find people to buy it. And then sometimes those people say, actually, it's not really what I wanted. I want it more like this. And you know enough business people to know that whatever their original concept is never usually what the business looks like in 5 or 10 years' time. So that's the whole idea of Beusail, is how do we create a community where there's like-minded people, and then I can, if I wanted to start a business in, say, if I wanted to do a skincare, and I wanted to this skincare to, I'm making this up, by the way, to be from Indigenous native ingredients from Australia, right? Now, I could go to my group. Now, I'm passionate about that because I'm from Australia. I grew up in North Queensland, you know, around this beautiful Indigenous culture. But my community might go, no, not really interested. Fine. Like that's great. What are you interested in? You're a bit like a focus group. What are you interested in? Let me create something that you want based on my values, because I'm really passionate about Australian ingredients and I'm really passionate about skincare. And you know what? I've just saved myself a fortune in product development and all sorts of things. So, you know, the way we do business and the way we do startups isn't working because we don't have access to capital. 9 out of 10 are failing in my industry. I'm like, okay, we've got to change the way we do it, and we've got to mentor them and get them to different stages in business and make sure that they've got a community to sell it to that are interested in buying it. And so then I don't have to have these questions around how do I get more sales and more leads, because the answer is always the same. Go create your community, which you should have done first.
Hey, Tamara, I love to see your passion bringing you back again and again to what's your top of mind. So appreciate. So that gives us, of course, a little bit, well, hardly any time to cover your book. Maybe that we're going to cover that in the next episode, because I think you got so much to share. I did notice, by the way, and I think that your book on Amazon is actually, in the Kindle version, more expensive than the hard copy version. Are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah.
I don't make any money out of it anyway.
Okay.
All the money goes to fund microloans for women in developing countries. So, but yes, if anyone wants to reach out, I've got hard copies, whatever.
No, it was more the observation that if you want to do something about improving the world, you would expect that the Kindle version is going to be cheaper than the hard copy version, but it's actually the other way around.
You would think so, but you know, I don't. Wiley is my publisher, so you know, again, guess who makes the rules?
That's true. Hey, 2 more questions I have before I let you go. In all those years you've been doing business, where do you get your inspiration from?
Where do I get my inspiration from? Growth and the people around me. My inspiration, as you know, is to do the opposite. So when I see something like that MLM example, when I see something that is such a huge opportunity, but done in Beusail, I kind of go, that's a challenge worth fighting for. You know, I've always been passionate about the environment, about people, you know, and I'm a well-traveled as well. Another one of my values, freedom. So I've seen a lot that needs to be addressed. And I get my hands dirty. You know, I'm a startup, I'm a country girl. Like, I know I'm in YPO, but with all the MBA people and the privately schooled people, and some of them are from rich families, but I'm actually a country girl. I will roll up my sleeves and say, this is something we need to work on. Let's do it together. And it's all about the journey, not the destination. So I love that process. And I love the people you meet. And I love the impact that you make to people's lives. I mean, who wouldn't get excited by that when you're changing lives?
That almost alludes to an answer to my last question for you. And that is, what would your advice be to young managers who are starting out on their journey, who want to be an entrepreneur like you?
Don't let society beat it out of you. Hold on to your dream. Everyone is born as a genius. Everybody has something in them that makes them really special and magic. And then go find somebody who's done it before and ask them how they did it. It's that simple. Mentor your way to where you want to go. Because otherwise, if you do it on your own, you're going to have to learn all the hard mistakes, the expensive mistakes that I have, or I can just share with you what happened when I tried doing something like that. And then that will get you thinking about whether that's a good option for you. So, and don't strive for it. Get into business for the right reasons. If you're getting into the business because you listened to some Grant Cardone speech saying be a millionaire overnight and get a jet plane, then I'm not convinced that's going to make you happy at the end of the day. Do it for the right reasons.
That's, I think, and that's what anybody should hope for. So, Tamara, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience. You've shared a lot with us, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me to share. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.